Chris was in his family room looking through old photographs of his wife, Stephanie, taken before they got married. He admired her beauty. Stephanie was 5'7" and stayed fit with exercise and yoga. She had wavy blonde hair that reached her shoulders and a captivating smile. In the pictures, she looked directly into the camera with a gentle expression. Thinking of her, he went to his home office and got a couple of envelopes. The first one had some photos from her college days. There were pictures of her lounging in a silk robe, and as he looked through them, he noticed they showed more over time, highlighting her figure. One photo, his favorite, showed her sitting in a chair, looking confidently at the camera. The second envelope contained some bold photos taken on their honeymoon. She seemed at ease and posed however he asked. Some of the photos were quite revealing, showing her with a playful expression. As he focused on the pictures, he didn't even notice Stephanie coming into the room. "What has your attention?" she asked. "Oh, just some pictures." She sat beside him and picked up a few from the second envelope. "I can see that. I had forgotten how adventurous we were. I really enjoyed posing for you," she said, giving him a quick kiss on the cheek. "I remember it was a lot of fun," he replied. Picking up some of the college photos, he asked, "How did you feel posing back then?" "I felt free and confident. It was exciting," she answered. "Did you ever think about posing without clothes?" "The photographer wanted me to, but I didn't. I was only 19 and felt a bit shy. I only wore lingerie, and that felt like enough at the time. You're the only one who has made me feel confident to go further. Maybe you should consider it again. You look great in these pictures." Looking at some of the bolder shots, she smiled. "You're right. I do look good. I could pose for you again. I can take more pictures, but I want to make sure the quality is there. Look how crisp these shots are compared to the others." "You have a good camera, and you know what you're doing," she said. "I do. But pictures of people are different from the outdoor shots I usually take. Why not read some books or take a class?" "I could, but I'd still need some special lighting and gear. Are you suggesting I pose for a professional photographer?" He smiled and said he thought that would be nice. She looked a bit worried. "Are you saying you want me to pose without clothes? Those photos were from a different time when we were younger. I think it would be beautiful if you did. Many married women have pictures taken for their husbands." He recalled a story about a colleague who had a nice picture of his wife in his office. "You mean he had a picture of his wife in the office?" He laughed. "That would be interesting. But no, it was just her in a nightgown. It didn't show anything. He mentioned he had other ones that were a bit more open, and they're both in their 40s. I'm not sure about that. Come on, Steph. I would like to see pictures of you looking nice." Stephanie agreed to pose, but playfully added, "But I'm not doing anything like those." He laughed and said he would look into finding a studio. A few days later, Stephanie asked if he had found anyone. "I've been searching. The problem is that the bigger studios that focus on this type of photography are quite pricey and only offer a few photos." He paused for a moment. "Why not ask Robin?" "Robin was a friend from college who enjoyed photography as a hobby," Stephanie replied. "I don't know. I'm not sure I could pose for Robin." He laughed. "Not her. Isn't she part of a photography club? She might know someone who does this type of work. Just tell her to keep it private." Stephanie agreed to check with Robin. She took some nice photos to show her what she envisioned. A few days later, she told Chris that Robin knew a photographer with a studio. She gave him the photographer's card and suggested he meet with him first. Chris reached out, and they set up a meeting after work. He took the nice photos that showed Stephanie well enough. The studio was in a typical office park. Chris found it at the end of a hallway in a low building. The photographer introduced himself as Jeff. Chris felt relieved when he saw that Jeff looked like an average guy. He had imagined someone much different. Jeff appeared to be a bit older than Chris. Jeff gave him a tour of the space. There was a small office at the front, and most of the area was the studio. It had a dressing area with a table for makeup. At the back, there was a dark room. The studio was big enough to create different scenes and setups, and at that moment, it had a bed and related items. Along one wall, Chris noticed a lounge area. He felt a thrill thinking about Stephanie being photographed there. Jeff suggested they move to the office to talk about what Chris and Stephanie wanted. Chris handed him the photos. He had never shared Stephanie's pictures with anyone else. Jeff studied them for a bit and then said, "Your wife looks great. I like her confidence. She knows how to work the camera. You captured her well." "Thanks. I appreciate it. Stephanie really enjoys posing. She hasn't done it for a while. My photos don't have the quality yours do since I'm not a professional. Plus, I don't have the right gear like you do." Jeff agreed that a camera flash can be limiting for this kind of photography. He asked Chris what kind of pictures he wanted. "Are you thinking more lingerie shots or full poses?" "I was considering full poses eventually, but it might be good to start with some lingerie shots to help her feel comfortable. Maybe have her remove her bra." He showed Chris some of his photos with Stephanie stretching and looking confident. "I really like photos like these where she looks relaxed," Jeff said as they talked about different types of poses Chris might want. "The worst thing is when a model shows up without a plan." Chris felt good about referring to Stephanie as a model. The photographer said they would start with some regular glamour shots and then move on to more revealing ones. Jeff asked Chris, "Is she okay with revealing photos? I never push my models." Chris replied, "She is fine. You can tell from these pictures that she likes to show off a bit. Just begin with some nicer lingerie until she feels comfortable." Jeff showed him some of his past work, which varied from simple lingerie shots to more artistic black and white photographs. "These are really good. I think Stephanie will enjoy posing for you. I see you do a lot of black and white photography." Jeff explained, "I love working in black and white. It allows for so much creativity. I can use shadows to create the right mood that suits the model." Chris agreed about the creative freedom of black and white shots. He preferred outdoor black and white photos, but had never done figure photography before. Jeff asked if Chris planned to attend the session with his wife. Chris said he wouldn't be there, thinking it would help Stephanie feel more at ease. "That's a good choice. Some partners want to stay, but it usually doesn't help. They often interrupt and try to give feedback, which can make their partner feel uncomfortable." They settled on a fee, and Jeff added, "Sometimes I bring an assistant. Stephanie won't mind, will she?" Chris assured him she wouldn't. "Great. Just have her reach out to me so we can set up the shoot. I'll give her some makeup tips. He'll have the contract ready too." "Contract?" Chris asked. "Yes, I won't shoot without one. It keeps us both protected and lets Stephanie decide how her photos are used. Photographers who skip contracts often aren't serious about their work." When Chris got home, he told Stephanie the news. She was excited about posing and asked, "This is fantastic. Tell me everything." Chris shared the details and mentioned that Jeff had seen her previous photos. "You showed him the pictures you took?" she asked, surprised. "Yes, he needed to see them to plan the shoot," Chris explained. Stephanie found it thrilling that her husband shared her previous pictures with another man. She playfully asked, "Do you think he'll like how I look?" Chris replied, "He'll enjoy photographing you. It's great to see you so excited." Stephanie then called Jeff to arrange the shoot, saying, "I'm really looking forward to working with you. My husband liked your work. When can we schedule?" Jeff replied, "I can't wait to photograph you. The pictures your husband shared were really nice. If evening works for you, we can set it up for the day after tomorrow at 6:30. Stephanie agreed with enthusiasm. Jeff gave her directions to the office park and his studio. On the evening of the shoot, while Stephanie was getting ready, Chris asked what she planned to wear. She laughed and said, "Well, not too much, but it's a surprise. You'll have to leave the room so you can't peek." Stephanie came back downstairs with a small bag. "I'm off." She kissed Chris on the cheek. "I'm looking forward to this. Thank you for suggesting it. Wish me luck." Chris watched her walk down the sidewalk to her car. The next few hours felt long. He went downstairs to the rec room to pass the time by watching TV. Finally, he heard the door open and Stephanie's footsteps. He walked to the bottom of the stairs. "I'm down here. How was it? Come up to the bedroom and I will tell you." He went upstairs and found the bedroom door closed. She asked him to wait. "Okay, you can come in now." Chris entered the bedroom. Stephanie was lying on the bed in a black sheer outfit. She was on her side in a playful pose. She asked him to stand by the bed. She stretched her arms above her head. "What do you think?" "Very nice. Is that one of your poses?" "It is," she replied. She then turned onto her stomach and shifted her position. "Pull up my outfit until my back is showing." He did as she asked. He thought about the photographer and his assistant who had been there. She looked over her shoulder and asked, "Well, what are you waiting for? Why don't you join me?" He took off his clothes and got into bed beside her. Stephanie was still on her stomach. He lay next to her and began to touch her back gently. "This is really nice. Tell me all about it." He was very professional. We first went over the shoot and then I changed. At first we thought about staying in regular clothes and then taking some off to help me feel more at ease. Since I had posed before in lingerie, we decided to start with this outfit. I wore a pair of bikini underwear too. How did it feel coming out of the dressing room in just a simple outfit? It was quite different from the last time I posed. That was in a small basement with just a few lights. As you know, Jeff's studio is much bigger. I felt a bit shy at first. Jeff told me to get on the bed and explain the poses he wanted. Once he started taking pictures, I felt more comfortable. After a few shots, he asked her to remove her underwear. "How did you feel about that?" It was strange to take off my underwear with someone there taking pictures. We started with me lying on my side. He wanted me to give a playful look. I slowly pulled one side of my underwear down. He took more pictures until they were off. "I didn't think you would move that quickly." Neither did I. But once we started, it all happened so fast. He guided me on poses and expressions while moving around the bed to catch different angles. "What else did you wear?" After some shots, I changed into a matching set. Chris imagined Stephanie lying on the bed for the camera. "Go on. Tell me more." He took pictures in different poses. Then he asked me to take off my top. I sat up in bed and unclasped it. He took a few from behind, then came to the front, and I let it fall. I held my hands up for the pictures. "I thought of you while doing it." "I would have liked to be there to help you," he teased. "Of course you would." Then he asked me to take off my underwear. Once I did, I wasn't wearing anything. She smiled. "So, you are curious about the pictures. Tell me about the other shots." "You're being a little naughty. You'll have to wait until we get the prints back." "Were you feeling excited? Did you imagine anything?" I was. Even though Jeff was very professional, I felt excited as I imagined a scene for the camera. I had a fun idea. "Tell me about it," he said. With the bright studio lights on and everything else dark, I pictured another man watching me. He would guide me on what shots he wanted. "That sounds like an interesting idea," Jeff replied. She playfully touched her husband, sensing he was also thinking about something fun. "Oh, do you know what I'm thinking?" he asked. In a teasing way, she said, "You imagine another model lying with me while Jeff takes pictures. When I remove my top, he would catch my attention with his compliments. I imagine him helping me adjust my clothes, showing me how to pose." By now, Chris was playfully engaging with her. "How do you know that's my idea?" She leaned closer, smiling. "Because it's your favorite thought. What else would Jeff suggest?" Chris' excitement grew as he answered, "He might want you to do more playful things." "Exactly. I would playfully explore and tease, creating a fun atmosphere for the camera. We could have fun prepping for shots together." As Stephanie described the scene, Chris was getting more into it. They both shared a laugh, feeling cozy together. "That was amazing," she said afterwards, resting against him. "This modeling will be enjoyable." A week later, Stephanie called Chris at work to say the photos were ready. Since Jeff's studio was close to his office, Chris decided to pick them up. When he met Jeff, he received an envelope. Here are Stephanie's pictures. These are smaller sizes. Choose the ones you want, in larger sizes. She asked me to wait until you got home to look at them. You will both enjoy them. She's perfect for this type of photography. Thanks. We can't wait to see them. She mentioned some of the poses. I'm happy to hear it went well. By the way, could you show me your darkroom? Of course. Follow me, Jeff replied, taking him to the darkroom. Chris noticed several monochrome photos of various body parts. Curious, he asked Jeff about them. Jeff explained, "These are different from glamour shots like what Stephanie did. These focus more on shapes and shadows rather than just the person's face. They create a sense of mystery, allowing people to enjoy the art without knowing who it is. Some women even frame these photos to display them." Intrigued, Chris wondered if Stephanie would enjoy taking more artistic photos in the future. When he got home, Stephanie welcomed him at the door. He handed her the envelope and she suggested, "Let's go upstairs to relax. We can have dinner later." After a refreshing shower, Chris entered the bedroom to find Stephanie looking at the photos in her nightgown. He joined her on the bed, excited to see what they had created. Stephanie smiled at the photos. "These turned out nice. I wasn't thinking about the final look while posing. Your idea to work with a pro was smart." They flipped through the pictures together. The lighting was soft, showing Stephanie in a nightgown. The sheets covered most of her body, leaving just a hint of her form. Chris grinned. "You look great. I can tell you're a natural blonde." In one photo, Stephanie lay on her back, looking at the camera. A sheet covered her lower body, showing just a bit of her hair. Other pictures showed her in different poses, always partly covered. Chris asked, "Was anyone else there?" Jeff mentioned an assistant. Stephanie nodded. "Just Jeff and his helper, a college kid learning photography. He set up the lights and moved the sheets. He's young but nice." Chris pictured the assistant arranging the poses. He kept looking at the photos. One he liked showed Stephanie on her stomach, facing the camera. Her back curved gently, and the sheet hid most of her body. "This one's great. I love how it shows your shape." They saw a few photos focusing on one part of her body. One highlighted her shoulder, another her back. Chris said, "Jeff used a trick called depth of field. It keeps you sharp and the background blurry. I use it in my photos, too." Stephanie tilted her head. "Oh, I get it." She pulled out more pictures. "I bet you'll like these." Chris' eyes widened. One photo showed Stephanie lying down, arms raised, legs slightly apart but still covered by a sheet. "Steph, these are amazing. Jeff was right, you're a natural." They picked their favorite photos to enlarge. Later, they shared a quiet, loving moment, keeping their thoughts private. Afterward, Stephanie asked, "You liked those, didn't you? Want me to pose again?" Chris nodded. "That'd be great." Stephanie called Jeff to set up another shoot. Chris liked her posing for the camera, and Stephanie enjoyed following Jeff's directions while the assistant helped. Between shoots, they loved looking at the photos. Jeff's pictures captured Stephanie's beauty. Chris said, "This was a good idea. Jeff's lighting makes your skin glow. My photos weren't as soft. These are classy, even uncovered." Stephanie smiled. "I told Jeff you wanted some open poses, but not too bold." Chris hugged her gently. "You look perfect." They shared another tender moment, happy with the photos and their time together. Chris paused to look at Stephanie's photos. "Why'd you stop?" she asked. "Just seeing how Jeff's pictures match you. He got the details right." Stephanie smiled, enjoying the moment. She thought it'd be exciting if others saw her photos. They shared a close, loving embrace, lost in their feelings. Later, Stephanie stretched her arms up. "Like this? You like Jeff's shots of me like this?" Chris nodded, admiring her beauty. "You know I do. I asked Jeff for those poses." They held each other tightly, happy with the photos. Stephanie's voice was warm. "I'll pose for any shots you like." Stephanie called Chris at work. "New photos are ready." He stopped by Jeff's studio on his way home. Jeff handed him an envelope. "You'll love these. Stephanie's great at posing. I'll miss working with her." Chris frowned. "What do you mean? We enjoy her shoots." Jeff shrugged. "These glamour shots have limits. I can't do much more with them." Chris asked, "What about those black and white photos you showed me, the artsy ones?" Jeff handed him a few. "Take these. Think Stephanie would try bolder poses? Talk it over. I'd love to shoot her in black and white. It gives more freedom." Chris nodded. "She might. She loves these sessions. I get why glamour shots can only go so far." Jeff agreed. "One more shoot like this, and that's probably it for her." That evening, Chris and Stephanie looked at the new photos. Most showed her in stockings and heels, posing on a couch. "These are nice," Chris said, pointing to one with her lying down, one leg bent, an arm raised. "I loved posing like that," Stephanie said. Chris smiled. "You look so comfortable." She nodded. "Jeff made it easy. I'm glad you're okay with these." Chris said, "Jeff thinks you're a natural. He enjoys working with you." He showed her the black and white photos. She studied them. "What are these? You can't see the whole person. They're so mysterious." Chris explained, "These are different from your color photos. They're more artistic, with shadows." Stephanie looked closer. "I see. Would you like me to try photos like these?" Chris grinned. "Jeff and I think you'd be great at it." He said that after one more session of color photos, there wasn't much left to do. "I see your point. There isn't much I can do besides pose in different outfits. I really enjoy modeling for you. Since you like the black and white photos, I will try for some more interesting poses." Stephanie called Jeff to set up another shoot. "Jeff, those photos were fantastic. My husband and I both loved them." "You made me look great," Jeff replied. "I'm glad you both liked them. You were the one who looked amazing. I was just behind the camera." "You're too humble. I want to arrange another session. My husband would like me to try more playful black and white poses," she said. "That's wonderful. I'm happy you want to model again. The black and white shots will let us be more creative." Stephanie shared that she worked in marketing and had a flexible schedule. "I won't tell my husband. It will be a surprise when I call him to pick up the new photos." "That's a smart idea. I develop all my black and white pictures so I can have them ready for you in under a week. It's also more private than sending them to a lab." They set a date and discussed the kinds of poses he had in mind. A week later, Stephanie called her husband at work. "Hi, honey. Can you stop by Jeff's place on your way home?" "Sure. What do you need?" "He has some new pictures for us, some black and whites." "Black and whites? When did you do another session?" "Less than a week ago. I wanted it to be a surprise." "Well, you certainly did. I can't wait to see them." "Me neither. And remember the rules. No peeking. Just come upstairs when you arrive home. I'll be waiting for you." Chris stopped by the studio. Jeff welcomed him and suggested they go into the office. Jeff handed Chris an envelope. "Here you go. You and Stephanie are really going to enjoy these. I'm glad she wanted to try more playful poses. She is very confident." "I can't wait to see them. She did tell me I couldn't peek." Chris noticed some other black and white photos on the desk. "Can I take a look at these?" Jeff said sure. Chris looked at the photos and saw a few different models. Some had hands gently touching their bodies. He liked one where there was just a hand resting on some fabric. "Jeff, these are pretty nice." "I know. Don't you think it adds to the mystery? You don't know who the models are. It really does. I might even know one of the women and not be able to tell who she is. That's the idea. How would you feel if Stephanie posed with another model? I don't know. That could be interesting. But I think I'll see how she feels about posing more playfully before I bring that up. She might think that's too much." Jeff handed him another envelope with more black and white photos. "Here, show her these." Chris thanked him and left to get home to his wife. He went upstairs as soon as he arrived at their townhouse. Stephanie was already in bed. She had on a soft nightgown. He leaned over and kissed her. "Looks like you're all set." He handed her the envelope with her pictures. "Here they are. You can look at them while I'm in the shower." The other envelope was downstairs. They could check those later. Stephanie quickly took the photos out of the envelope. She called out to Chris in the bathroom. Don't take too long, honey. You're really going to like these. He climbed right into bed, and Stephanie handed him a stack of photos. They looked at Stephanie's new photos together. In most of them, she wasn't wearing much. She had on stockings like in her last glamour shot. One photo showed Stephanie lying on her back, with her legs apart. The camera was positioned lower, aiming up. Her face was a little blurry. Stephanie, this one is quite bold. Check out the next one. He looked at another similar shot, where one of her hands was touching herself. How did you feel posing for these? I felt very confident. I was a bit nervous about lying like that. But Jeff made me feel comfortable. As you can see, there's a soft light on me. They shared the rest of the photos like trading cards. Chris showed his wife another one taken from the side, showing her from her upper body down to her mid-thigh. One hand was playfully touching her curls. This is nice. I really liked posing for this one. I wasn't sure if Jeff was capturing everything or not. I felt a bit mischievous. She showed him more. In one photo, she was on her knees with her head lowered. I really like these. Jeff moved around while I stayed in position. It makes it look like I'm ready for something special. Chris looked at them closely. Some showed her facing the camera, while others had her looking away. In one, taken from behind, part of her figure was visible. Chris said, "These have a lot of feeling to them. The fantasy adds to it. We should get a couple printed larger." They set the photos aside and had a passionate moment together. Chris ended with her on her knees like in the photos. Wow, Stephanie, you seem really excited since you started posing. Were you thinking about someone? I was thinking of you, imagining a romantic moment while Jeff took our pictures. With these thoughts, they both enjoyed an intense experience together. Afterward, Chris said he would go get some seltzer water. Stephanie thanked him and asked for a glass. He brought it back with another envelope. Stephanie continued to look at the photos, recalling how excited she felt during the shoot. Chris asked her, "You really like those, don't you?" He handed her the drink and the envelope, saying, "Take a look at these. Wow, these are interesting. Check out this one." She pointed to a photo of two models, one with lighter skin and the other with darker skin, their faces hidden. This is in black and white. They looked through the rest, commenting on the models. Chris asked her, "If you like them so much, why not try posing like this?" Are you serious? It would be exciting, but think about it. Posing with another model means being close in ways that might not feel right. She pointed out the poses in the photos. Look at that angle. It shows they were very close together. I understand your point, but it still has a strong feeling. If I were to pose like that, I would be in bed with another man. I understand you have your own dreams, but are you ready for this? I've only had 3 sessions so far. I can pose for more. Maybe some different types. I could even do a little performance while Jeff takes my pictures. It's artistic. If you're in bed with another person, it's just a form of art. Most of the photos focus on bodies. No one would know who they are. It's not like we would be doing anything inappropriate. Well, I'm not sure. I need to think it over. I'm not making any promises. But if I agree, I have one condition. When you see the photos, you cannot get upset or jealous. If you do, I won't pose anymore. You'll just have to be okay with the ones we already have. Chris agreed to her terms. Stephanie called Jeff to arrange another shoot. My husband and I really like the photos. I want to plan another session. That sounds great, Stephanie. I really enjoy taking your pictures. What do you want to do next? I think I want to do some of the ones we talked about. Really? Was your husband okay with that? It was his idea. He thought having those pictures on his desk would be nice. He was excited to show them to me, but I don't want to do anything too revealing like before. I need to feel comfortable with another model beside me. Plus, I want to see Chris's reaction. Do you have anyone in mind? Jeff suggested a model he had shown her before. Not for this one. He might be too much. What about the senior from my college art class? He's good-looking and charming. I don't want to overstrain my husband. Sounds good. I'll contact him and then we can sort out the details. Chris enjoyed looking at Stephanie's photos between sessions. He especially liked the black and white ones. Stephanie noticed a couple of times that he seemed to be very interested while looking at her more daring photos. One thing was clear. Chris was often in the mood. Stephanie decided to surprise her husband again. She called him at work and asked him to stop by Jeff's studio. When he asked what type of photos they were, she said it was a surprise. "I think you're going to really enjoy them." He couldn't wait to see them. He wondered if she posed with another model. Upon arrival, he found Jeff in his office. "I hear you have more photos for us?" Jeff replied, "You're really going to love these. That's all I can say. Stephanie made me promise not to tell." Chris thought about his wife's new adventure. We're both excited to see them. While there, he saw some other photographs on Jeff's desk. He asked, "Can I take a look at those?" "Sure, but you probably won't find them interesting," Jeff said. "Oh, I see what you mean. I knew men posed, but I never really looked at any. Some men enjoy sharing their images. Younger guys usually are art students trying to build their portfolios." One of the photos featured an older man, and Chris noticed he looked quite confident. "What about this guy? Is he an art student?" Jeff chuckled. "No, he's not. I shouldn't show you this, but I feel I can trust you." He handed Chris a couple of photos. "Here, take a look." The first photograph was a black and white image of the same man with a woman on a studio bed. He was lying on his back, and most of the image was focused on them. The woman's face was not completely visible. The second one showed the same woman in a similar position, with her back turned to the camera. "These are intriguing, but what's the big deal?" "I knew you took pictures of couples together. It seems like a married woman with her husband. She is married, but not to him. Her husband arranged the photo shoot." Chris was surprised. Jeff explained that since his studio was in a quiet place, he offered some more private services. He had worked with this man before when a couple wanted someone older to pose with the wife. Chris noticed the woman looked much younger than her partner. She had dark hair and appeared very attractive. He found it hard to believe. "You and Stephanie are like newlyweds. You might be surprised at what some couples enjoy. But let's move on. You need to head home with your new photos." He picked up the envelope with Stephanie's pictures. He had his fantasies, but he didn't want to show Stephanie the ones with the young married woman. When he got home, they followed their usual routine. Stephanie was in bed with a short robe on. Chris gave her the envelope to look through the photos while he went to take a shower. When he came back to the bedroom, Stephanie was getting comfortable. She was lying on her stomach, going through the pictures. Chris admired how she looked, noticing the graceful curve of her back. The photos were similar to her last session. He appreciated seeing her beautiful shape. In the previous session, she had playful poses wearing bikini bottoms and one of his dress shirts. The last shot was taken from above, with the shirt unbuttoned. He told her, "These look amazing. I love how you look." He began to wonder if Stephanie had decided against posing with another model, but that was okay. As he looked through the next photo, he was surprised. It showed a hand gently holding her. The other model must have been close to her. Stephanie had been right about how she looked in the past. The angle suggested intimacy. The other pictures were mostly unclear, but captured her in beautiful ways. Chris was fascinated. The photos showed different angles and how they interacted. One shot even suggested a playful touch, but he tried to think of her as just a model. The black and white photos emphasized a sweet softness that made everything look dreamy. There were pictures of lips near her collarbone and soft touches on her belly. He noted one where the male model had his hand on her thigh. It raised a hint of passion, but since he couldn't tell it was Stephanie, he just thought of her as a beautiful model. Stephanie noticed his reaction to the photos. "Do you like these? What do you think so far? Is this what you expected?" "Yeah, these are wonderful. They really highlight the mystery and beauty of the female model." "The female model? You mean me?" Chris explained that he was seeing her as a lovely model, adding to the playful fantasy of it all. Stephanie thought about the idea carefully. She agreed it was more interesting that way. She shared some other suggestions. In these, the woman is returning the affection. The man was lying on his back, and the woman was next to him, resting on her elbow. She touched his chest gently. The pictures progressed as she kissed down his stomach, stopping just above his waist. Chris was a bit surprised, but found himself enjoying the thought of the woman in the photos. He looked at the pictures more closely. He told Stephanie, "I like how the rings on her hand create a little mystery." Stephanie played along and asked, "What kind of mystery?" Chris replied, She could be a married woman with her husband or someone else. She smiled and kissed him softly, asking, "And which story do you prefer?" He thought for a moment and said, "I think she's a married woman with someone else." "That's a bit more intriguing. Here are more pictures of the woman with her partner." In one photo, the wife was lying down, propped on her elbows, her hair falling to one side. She wore simple clothing. The man was beside her, leaning close. Chris noticed how intimate the scene felt. The next picture showed the man leaning in close to the woman's neck. Stephanie mentioned that Jeff was taking creative shots. She pointed out one photo where the man's hand was gently resting on her back, which added an interesting touch. "This shot turned out really nice. Don't you think it's more appealing with someone close to her rather than just her alone?" Chris nodded and said, "These are really captivating. Show me more." Stephanie continued to share more images. In one, the man was gently pulling down one side of the clothing, partially revealing her. In another photo, she was kneeling. The man was close by, and Chris noted how the scene changed the mood. Stephanie was getting excited thinking about the shoot. She was mostly focused on the direction she heard and the gentle touches she felt from her partner. Chris told her, "I like the other picture of you kneeling, but having another person there just adds another level of interest." She set the photos aside. "You mean the woman and her partner?" Stephanie shifted positions, and Chris leaned closer to her. He softly nuzzled her neck, and she let out a gentle sound of enjoyment. He said, "I think it's lovely when the woman goes back to her husband after being with someone else." Stephanie lowered her voice, asking, "Did you enjoy seeing that?" "Yes, I did," he replied, continuing to share tender moments with her. Stephanie reminisced about the photo shoot when she recalled how the other model was encouraged to engage playfully. Stephanie felt a shiver when the other model touched her shoulder. She hadn't expected it, but liked the feeling. Chris hugged her close, remembering how she looked in the photos. "Keep holding me," she said softly, thinking of the shoot. They shared a warm embrace, both feeling excited. They lay back, catching their breath. Stephanie smiled, touching Chris' arm. "So, you like the photos? Want more with the other model?" Chris hesitated. The pictures were bold, but he enjoyed seeing her with someone else. It wasn't like she was being unfaithful. "At first, I wasn't sure," he said, "but they were great. I'd like you to pose with him again." They talked about how fast Stephanie went from simple photos to posing with a man. They both enjoyed it, but she reminded Chris of her rule, no jealousy or anger. He nodded, agreeing again. Stephanie hugged him tightly. "So you like me posing with another man? It'll be fun. Picture me in the studio while Jeff tells him how to pose with me." She kissed Chris gently, happy with how the modeling turned out. They shared another close moment, excited about the photos. Stephanie leaned in, whispering, "The shoot was thrilling. He touched my arm, stood close. Jeff told us to pose together. It felt nice." Chris grinned. "I liked it. You looked amazing with him near you. I don't mind him being close." They talked more about the shoot, both feeling happy and connected. Stephanie called Jeff to plan another session. "Chris and I loved the photos," she said. "I want to do another shoot." Jeff sounded surprised. "He liked you with the other model? He wasn't jealous?" Stephanie laughed. "He enjoyed it. I won't share details, but you get it." Jeff asked, "Want a different model?" "Dwayne liked working with you. He thought you were confident and relaxed." "I like Dwayne too," Stephanie said. "It went better than I thought. I like showing my rings. I have an idea for the next shoot. One more thing, what about those extra photos? I worried Chris might see them." She meant the ones where Dwayne touched her more closely, like when they posed together on the bed. Once the photo shoot ended, Stephanie and Jeff had a moment together. Jeff comforted her, saying, "You and Dwayne were just having fun. Don't worry about it. We can keep those for a private collection." She started to plan what she wanted for the next session, and Jeff promised to arrange it with Dwayne. Chris and Stephanie enjoyed looking at her photos as part of their time together. One night, while reminiscing, Stephanie playfully mentioned her experience with the male model, and Chris asked if Jeff picked him. She corrected him, saying, "I chose him. A married woman should have the freedom to decide." She explained that Jeff had shown her photos of potential models. Curious, Chris asked how it felt to see the pictures. It was exciting. I've never seen anything like it before. Some were quite impressive. You don't mind me looking at those pictures, do you? Chris replied, I don't mind. It's good to know what you like. That Friday afternoon, Stephanie called Chris at work, teasing him with her tone. Jeff has some new photos for you, Chris asked, surprised. He does? When was your session? She playfully responded, A married woman doesn't share every detail about her meetings. Remember I had that exciting surprise for you a few days ago? Chris chuckled, realizing it wasn't just about him, and promised he wouldn't be late that night. Eagerly awaiting the end of his workday, he drove carefully home. Once inside their townhouse, he called, "I'm home." She replied from the bedroom, "I'm up here." He said, "I have the pictures. Let me grab some wine." Stephanie quickly responded, "Yes, please. I can't wait to see them." Chris brought 2 glasses of wine upstairs and gave her the drinks and the photos. "Thanks, honey. Why don't you take a shower and relax? I'll arrange these photos." When he came back, Stephanie was looking through them and said, "These are amazing. Come sit with me so we can enjoy them together." The first few shots featured Stephanie in a pretty bra and underwear. The ones they liked best showed her reclining, looking relaxed and happy. Chris complimented, "These are great." Where was the other model? Stephanie clarified, "My friend was out of view, watching. Knowing he was there made things even more exciting." She offered Chris another picture, and he paused as he noticed Stephanie was facing the camera, with the same model gently beside her. Stephanie tilted her head, smiling at the other model. Their faces were partly hidden. His arm rested gently over her shoulder. The next photo showed his hands on her arms and back. In one, his hand was near her waist, close to her skirt. Another had his fingers just touching the edge of her skirt, with Stephanie's hand resting on his. Her wedding ring sparkled. He leaned in, whispering near her ear. "What do you think, honey?" Stephanie asked. "It's like a story of a married woman with a friend. Maybe her husband's at work or away." Chris nodded. "These are nice. The story's fun, but I thought the faces would stay hidden." He pointed to a photo where Stephanie looked right at the camera, the other model's hand on her shoulder. "Some are just for you," she said. "I wanted to play out your idea of me with a friend." Chris asked, "How did it feel when he touched your shoulder?" She leaned close, her voice soft. "I liked it. He touched my neck and arms like before. Jeff told him to rest his hand there." She handed Chris more photos. Both models faced away from the camera. Stephanie knelt on a bed, legs tucked under. The sequence showed the other model touching her shoulders gently. He moved closer, wrapping his arms around her. The camera shifted, catching his hands on her arms. Stephanie leaned back, her face calm and happy. In the next set, Stephanie lay on her back wearing a skirt. She said, "Jeff told me to raise my arms to look relaxed. Then he asked the model to touch my arms again. After that, he said to take off my scarf." The photos showed her scarf being removed, angled to show her from shoulders to knees. Stephanie looked comfortable, her hair visible. Chris flipped through the new batch. "These are special for me." Stephanie lay back, arms raised, the model kneeling nearby. One photo was taken from behind the model, looking down at Stephanie. She gazed at him calmly. Another showed her smiling at the model kneeling beside her. "Did you like posing with him?" Chris asked. Stephanie laughed. "I knew you'd ask that. I made sure Jeff got some close-up shots." She teased. "I liked working with him. Isn't he nice? Want me to pose with someone else next time?" She smiled playfully. Chris grinned. "It's fun seeing you with another guy. It'd be cool to try different poses." He asked, "Did Jeff always call him your friend?" Stephanie nodded. "Yeah, I told him our idea. He said, 'Stephanie, show your friend your smile, let him touch your arms.' It felt exciting to follow his directions like before." Chris was amazed at how bold Stephanie's poses were. He'd expected just a few photos with light touches. "Wow, Stephanie, these photos are amazing," Chris said, eyes wide. "I didn't expect them to be so bold." She smiled, holding his hand. "I think you like seeing me with another guy. Are you jealous? I can stick to solo shoots if you want." Chris shook his head. "No, I'm not jealous. Show me more. I like you with your friend." Stephanie handed him a few more pictures. Each one was more striking than the last. They lay side by side on the bed, close and smiling. Some photos showed them talking closely. One close-up captured their faces, mouths open, laughing together. Her friend leaned in, whispering near her neck. Another showed him smiling near her shoulder. "I love these close-ups," Chris said. "You can't see what his hands are doing." Stephanie nodded. "That's the fun of these photos. Maybe his hand was on my arm. Maybe I was touching his shoulder. It's all about what you imagine." They stood close, hands resting gently on each other. Stephanie's hand was on his back. "Do you like how I'm standing with him?" she asked. Chris kissed her softly. "Let's take a break. We can look at more later." Stephanie grinned. "I know you're excited. Let's check out a few more." She passed him another set. In these, Stephanie leaned on one elbow, her friend kneeling nearby. One photo, taken from behind her, showed her hand with her wedding ring on his hip. Another, from her feet, showed her smiling near his stomach. The next had her laughing close to his waist. The camera moved to her back, capturing her head in different spots. "What do you think of these?" she asked. Chris blinked. "They look so close, like you're really connected," Stephanie teased. "That's your favorite idea, right? A married woman being close with her friend." Chris stared at the next photo, surprised. It showed Stephanie leaning on pillows, her friend kneeling nearby. They looked very close, their shoulders touching. "Stephanie, it looks so real," he said. She laughed. "It does, doesn't it? That's the trick. We were just posing close to make it look real. Here are more like that." The photos mixed close-ups and full shots, showing them side by side. "Now we can rest," Stephanie said, giving Chris a warm kiss. "You liked those, didn't you? It was fun posing so close. It felt nice being near him." Chris smiled, pulling her close. "Yeah, I loved them." They hugged tightly, feeling happy and connected. As Chris moved in and out, he remembered images of his wife with someone she imagined being with. Stephanie was excited after thinking about her photo shoot. While they were together, she spoke playfully to him, adding more to their connection. The next morning, both of them still felt energized. Chris got out of bed and went downstairs to make coffee. When he came back, Stephanie was sitting up, looking at her session photos. The covers were gathered around her waist. "You're really enjoying those photos. Are you thinking about your time with him?" Chris asked. "I am, but these are new ones we didn't see last night. Let me show you more of what happened," she replied. The rest were intimate photos. Chris was surprised at how bold Stephanie was being. He tried to focus on their fantasy instead of just Stephanie. The images showed her in different poses, capturing moments that seemed vivid. He noticed a close-up, trying to see if they truly seemed real, but certain details were hidden. "These look so lifelike. It seems as if you're really involved," he remarked. "Of course, it's all about creating the illusion. A married woman is going to have moments with her lover. We had to be careful with how things were set up to keep the fantasy alive," she explained. They went through more photos together. Some showed Stephanie in various poses, expressing excitement. Chris continued to look closely. "These appear so real. It almost seems like you're really enjoying yourself," he pointed out, referring to an image showing her expression. "It does, doesn't it? I had help from Riva, who offered guidance on how to express myself, and I've learned a lot by studying photos of others," she added. Stephanie explained that Kim and Pamela were other models who had worked with the photographer. Riva, another married woman, enjoyed posing for artistic images with different models. Stephanie described Riva as having an attractive figure and said her husband also supported her modeling. "Let's get back to the scenes," she suggested. Chris remembered the photos he had seen of the married woman with an older man, feeling inspired by the images of Stephanie. Overcome by emotion, he moved closer, and they embraced tenderly. They shared an intense moment together, both feeling deep joy. Afterward, Chris rested beside her and said, "That was amazing. How did you come up with such a great idea?" "I thought you might just want something simple, but I wanted to make the shoot excite your imagination. Jeff and I discussed a concept," she explained. "A concept?" "Yes. Jeff plans all the sessions carefully. We worked out a story about a wife and her lover. I made a plan for it," she said. "What kind of plan?" "I always create outlines for my projects. I believe in being prepared when meeting with clients." "I planned a story about a wife spending time with a friend," Stephanie said. They share a quiet moment in the bedroom, talking closely. I got the idea from you. Remember you imagined another man being close to me? I used that in the plan. Did you plan the bolder scenes? Chris asked. Not really, she replied. Once Jeff started shooting, everything went fast. I didn't think about each pose. It worked because we all got along. The model playing my friend was the same one from before. He helped me get the poses right. What's your next idea? Chris asked. Stephanie smiled. You want me to pose like that again? Yeah, Chris said. You enjoy it, and I do too. She playfully tapped his arm. I thought of this one. Now it's your turn. What do you want? Chris thought for a moment. Maybe at our house, in the bedroom. Stephanie laughed. That's a fun idea. She paused. Jeff would like that. How about a story where a wife meets a friend at home while her husband's at work? That sounds great, Chris said. Same model? No, she said. He's nice, but I'd like someone new. That way you won't worry. He'll talk to Jeff. Chris shared some photo ideas. Stephanie promised to make them happen. On Monday, she called Jeff. Chris wants another shoot, she said. Really? Jeff asked. Solo or with someone else? With another model, Stephanie said. I was nervous opening the photos last time. I was careful, Jeff said. I know, she replied. I was excited watching Chris see them. I worried I'd show him the wrong ones. Jeff chuckled. You'll love the new ones. They're special for your collection. Stephanie explained, Riva, your assistant, encouraged me to try bold poses. You hid the details well. I think Chris noticed I was having fun. Riva and I said you're a natural, Jeff said. Tell me about the new idea. Stephanie shared the plan. I want a different model. Maybe Randall? I can get Randall, Jeff said. It'll be a couple of weeks. I'm busy with some work you helped with. That's fine, Stephanie said. I need a break. I didn't expect simple photos to turn into this. Did you show my pictures to that older man? Yeah, Jeff said. He liked them. He wants to work with you. Stephanie felt excited. Great. He'll come by soon to get the other photos. I can't wait to see them. Chris and Stephanie loved looking at her photos. Chris studied them, trying to spot details in the shadows. The black and white shots made it hard to tell. One afternoon, Jeff called Stephanie. I know you wanted a break, but can you help with a shoot? You wanted to arrange a meeting with Randall at your home, but how about having him come to my studio instead? I need some pictures for my exhibition. Plus, it will give you both a chance to get to know each other better. I showed him some of your photos, and he's really looking forward to it. She felt excited thinking about the talented model seeing her work. She wondered which photos Jeff had shown him. She replied, Sure, that sounds great. When do you need me? Since you want my help, does that mean he'll get some more for my own collection? Jeff explained the types of shots he wanted to take. He promised to ensure he would get some private ones too. He asked if she could come by in a couple of days, and she said yes. She thought about her last session and was eager for Chris to come home. She pulled out a hidden envelope containing some of her private photos and looked through them while lying on her bed. One photo showed her in a confident pose. Imagining the older model made her feel a rush of excitement. Riva had shown her some of their photos, and she told Stephanie her husband had organized the shoot. Later, when Chris came home from work, he found Stephanie in bed looking at more photographs. She was enjoying a moment of relaxation with 2 glasses of wine on the nightstand. He leaned down and gave her a soft kiss. Still looking at your pictures? He asked. With a playful smile, she replied, These are new. Really? I didn't know you had another shoot, he said with curiosity. She teased him, saying, I told you a married woman doesn't share all her secrets with her husband. Go freshen up and he'll show you. He took a quick shower and returned to bed with a glass of wine in one hand and her smooth leg in the other. She shared the new photos. The first showed a woman with a new partner who was tall and athletic. They stood facing each other, and the shot highlighted their connection. Chris asked her about this new partner. She replied, Well, sometimes variety brings excitement. The next image showed a full view of them together. Chris noticed the intimacy and asked, It looks like you were caught with someone. Stephanie replied, Maybe it does. Would you ask him to leave if you walked in, or would you want to stay and see what happens? I think you know my answer, he said, intrigued by the photos. These pictures were more revealing than the last ones. Many were anonymous, but some showed the woman's face. There were playful scenes of kisses and close-ups of their conversations. Stephanie explained, the woman wanted some of these just for her husband, to show him her fun side. There were various poses with her partner behind her, embracing her body. Chris smiled and said, these are exactly what I wanted. He looked at one where her arms were raised, and she appeared entirely free, enjoying the moment. The mix of anonymous shots and those showing her face created a story. One photo showed a hand gently resting, adding to the intimacy of the collection. He felt happy that he could see all of her partner's fingers. Stephanie gave him a few more. They came from just below her chest. His hands were not shown. She was still lying back, looking very interested. Stephanie wondered about his fingers and thought, looks like she's enjoying this. Maybe someone is watching from the doorway. Chris could not believe how clear everything was. They changed positions, with the wife facing her partner again. There were more scenes of them kissing from different angles. They were in a close hug, with her hands on his shoulders and him holding her waist. The next part started with the wife kissing his neck. One arm was around him while her other hand moved down his body. Stephanie was excited thinking about the scene. This is another one you asked for. Do you like seeing the married woman with her partner? Do you want her to stop? I enjoy watching her. I want to see more. The blonde wife kissed down his body until she was kneeling. Shots were taken at different angles. Her hand was always near him. In the last few, he was partly excited. Chris thought it was impressive that he was staying calm. The scene switched to the bed. The wife's partner was lying back on pillows. The angle showed her from behind. She was leaning towards him, looking playful. It seemed like her hand was back by him again. His hand rested on her shoulder. Chris wondered if Jeff had taken other shots from the front. Here's another scene you like. Do you enjoy seeing the married woman with her partner? Yes, I do. Stephanie thought about the videos she had kept hidden away from her husband, where she had more intimate moments. The next part showed the blonde wife lying on her back. The angle was from over her shoulder, and her partner was close by her. And here is the scene you wanted. The angles showed their connection. It was clear that they were very close. Stephanie remembered the thrill she felt in her own moments. The shoot wrapped up with the couple close together. The wife's legs were open wider than before. The final shot was taken from above, showing her holding her partner closely. Stephanie thought about how exciting it felt to be close to him. She couldn't wait to see her collection. She thought about showing them to Chris but wasn't sure if he was ready. Chris started to love photography more. He spent weekends outside taking pictures. He particularly liked old, abandoned buildings. He reached out to Jeff and said he had some film he wanted to develop. Jeff replied, "Of course, that sounds good. Drop them off, and my assistant will take care of them." "Are you sure it's okay?" Jeff assured him that it was no trouble. Chris brought the film in early that week. Later, he called Jeff to ask about prints. Jeff invited him over on Saturday afternoon to check on them. He told Stephanie he was going to Jeff's house for the prints. As he arrived at the office building and walked down the hallway to Jeff's studio, he saw an older man with a younger woman. It was the same man from the pictures. The younger woman was a beautiful blonde. He discreetly glanced at her left hand and noticed a wedding ring. He quickly imagined it was Stephanie leaving the studio after a session with the older man. Jeff had told him where his negatives and contact prints were and mentioned Chris could go ahead to the darkroom while he finished some tasks. Chris began looking through his prints to see which ones he wanted to enlarge when he spotted some black and white photos he had never seen before. They were close-up shots featuring a range of models, both male and female, including individuals of different backgrounds. He noticed that some of the women were wearing wedding bands, and 2 of them were blonde. Chris was surprised to see that Jeff took these kinds of pictures. The images showed some intimate moments. Some featured the models in close-up poses. He couldn't help but be drawn to photographs of one of the blonde models. She appeared with both white and black models in different poses. Jeff interrupted him, asking, "What do you think of these?" "Wow, these are interesting. I had no idea you took this kind of photography," Chris replied. "I'm planning an exhibit of bold art for a local gallery. I wanted to go beyond the usual nudes, Jeff explained. You definitely achieved that, Chris said. Jeff then playfully asked if Stephanie would be interested in posing for similar pictures. Chris understood he was joking and replied, I figured as much. But with how you shoot, they could be anyone. Exactly. Well, go ahead and make your prints. I need to handle some office work, Jeff said. As Chris worked on his prints, his thoughts wandered to imagining Stephanie in some of those photos. A few days later, Stephanie mentioned she had new shots to show him. I helped Jeff get some new commercial clients. We took these at one of the shoots, she said. What's the theme? He asked, curious. Just wait. I think you'll figure it out, she replied, showing him the photos. They were taken in an office conference room. Stephanie wore a dark business suit with a skirt that ended just below her knees. The top of her jacket was unbuttoned, showing a bit of her neckline. In one shot, an older man sat at the table, looking at some material while Stephanie stood beside him, leaning over as if explaining something. The camera captured her from different angles. One angle showed only her head and body down to her waist, with a glimpse of her neckline. I guess you can see what the theme is, Stephanie said to her husband, smiling. It's one of your favorites. I know you like to imagine me at work with a client. You know that's one of my favorites. Who is this new man? He looks different from the others, he asked. You're right. For this shoot, we wanted someone who looked more professional. The others seemed too youthful. This guy is an older gentleman who helps out Jeff, she explained. Think of him as a business client, not a friend, Stephanie said, smiling. That's how Jeff directed me. The married woman is getting adventurous, isn't she? Meeting different people now. Chris felt a spark of excitement. He remembered the older man from Jeff's studio, seen with a younger woman. He played along. It makes sense. A lively woman like you wants new experiences. Stephanie showed him more photos. In one, she unbuttoned her jacket, revealing a neat blouse. The next pictures were taken around a conference table. From behind, she leaned slightly over the table, her skirt fitting closely. The client stood nearby, his hand resting on her leg. Wow, Steph, these are striking, Chris said. Was he really touching you? She grinned. It's part of the story. Maybe he touched my knee, or maybe higher. You guess. In another photo, taken from the front, she rested both hands on the table, her wedding ring shining. The client sat close, his hand on her arm. Stephanie looked calm and happy. Since this one shows your face, it's special for me, right? Chris asked. Show me more. In the next shots, Stephanie stood by the table facing the client. She leaned back, hands on the table, her skirt neat and stockings visible. The client stood beside her and they shared a friendly smile. Her jacket was open, showing her blouse clearly. This is great, Chris said. I love how you look professional with stockings. Stephanie nodded. I knew you'd like it. It feels nice to dress up for work meetings. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Chris smiled. Yeah, it's fun seeing you confident with your client still in his suit. In the next photos, her blouse was slightly loosened. The client stood close, talking softly near her neck. Then she sat on the table, legs crossed. They shared a warm moment, smiling closely. The black and white photos highlighted her calm expression. Chris was surprised by the next pictures. The client's hand rested near her skirt, and she touched his arm lightly. Wow, you two look close, Chris said. Stephanie frowned. I hope you're not upset. It happened fast. Jeff told him to stand closer for the photos. If you're mad, he'll stop. Chris shook his head. No, keep going. I encourage this. It fits the story and looks real. Let's see the rest, Chris said eagerly. Stephanie smiled. I think you'll really like these. The scene continued with the client standing close to Stephanie. She handed Chris more photos. Wow, Stephanie, these are so bold, he said, surprised. In one photo, Stephanie sat on the edge of a table, leaning back with her hands resting behind her. One leg rested on the table, the other hung down. Her jacket was off, showing her blouse. The older man leaned in, talking softly near her face. His hand rested gently on her leg. Stephanie passed him another picture. Here's one you'll like. It showed the client sitting in a chair, facing her. The camera caught different angles, some close, some far. What do you think? she asked, handing him one taken from a distance. Doesn't it look like someone's watching from the door? Maybe it's you. Another photo zoomed in on Stephanie's face. Her eyes were closed, lips slightly open, looking happy. The client stood by the table, Stephanie kneeling nearby, facing him. The shots showed her adjusting his belt, then his jacket, opening it slightly. Her hands rested on his legs as she looked up, smiling. What do you think? Stephanie asked. Like me posing with an older man? Chris nodded, captivated. The photo showed her from behind, her head tilted at different angles. He couldn't tell how close she was to the client, but it looked friendly. He imagined Jeff directing her to pose this way. The scene changed to Stephanie leaning over the table, dressed in a neat skirt and stockings. The client stood behind her, hands on her shoulders. Unlike other shoots where models just touched her lightly, this felt more real. Jeff used a camera trick to keep her sharp and the background blurry. One photo, taken just above the table, showed Stephanie's face slightly out of focus, looking back calmly. The client stood close, hands steady on her. This is amazing, Chris said. It looks so real. Stephanie nodded. That's the idea. It makes the story better. She touched his arm gently. Do you like seeing me with another man? Yeah, Chris said, smiling. It's fun. She hugged him close. I enjoyed it too. It felt nice posing with him. They shared a warm moment, excited by the photos. Later, while relaxing in bed after looking at the pictures again, Chris mentioned he was going out of town for work. How long will you be gone? Stephanie asked. Just a couple of days, he replied. Why do you ask? She turned to her side and playfully touched him. A married woman needs to know when her husband will be away. She needs to plan when to see someone else. Remember our story? You're going to arrange a meeting with Jeff at our house while I'm gone? That's right. We talked about it. The married woman has met others while her husband was at work and now when he's away. He inquired about who she would meet, and she told him it was Randall. We both liked that last session. I enjoyed the chemistry. Don't you like me meeting someone special? Yeah. I liked seeing the married woman with someone else. What poses have you thought of? These will be all romantic scenes. Since you like the married woman with her partners, there will be more of those. How about seeing some creative shots? You've never watched any of those. I like seeing the married woman with her partners. I would like to see her being affectionate with someone. I'll make sure Jeff gets some great shots. Maybe some of the married woman making things more exciting. Stephanie sat closer to her husband. This was becoming her favorite way to talk to Chris about her photo shoot. Wow, you have a way of getting into the moment. I know you like the scenes where the woman felt enjoyed. When her friend touches her, she will open up, and Jeff can capture those moments. She won't be wearing much, will she? No, she'll be dressed for the part throughout the shoot. Stephanie continued to describe her plans in detail. Chris thought this would be one of the most interesting shoots yet. He left for his business trip on Tuesday. Thankfully, it was just a seminar, so he didn't have to give any presentations. Before he left, Stephanie mentioned that the shoot was set for Wednesday evening. This was the first time she told him beforehand about posing with others. That night after dinner, he was distracted in his hotel room, thinking about Stephanie. He had brought some of her previous pictures along for inspiration. At the same time, Stephanie was at home, enjoying some personal time. Chris could barely focus during Wednesday's meetings. He thought about Stephanie preparing for her shoot. After the sessions, there was a gathering before dinner, but he didn't call her. After dinner, he had a few drinks at the lounge. When it was almost 10, he decided to call her. She didn't answer right away and sounded slightly out of breath. She explained she had been busy. Did your shoot go well? Oh, yes, it was wonderful. Jeff just left a little while ago. You're really going to enjoy this one. Tell me more. Well, you know the rules. I can't share anything until the film is developed. It must have been good. You sound excited. Did Jeff get the shots we discussed? I'm still feeling the excitement. I had a fun time with my partner tonight. Jeff got all the photos we planned, Stephanie said. They talked a bit more, but she kept the details short. Chris said he'd be home the next evening. Stephanie teased him. Let me know if you get an early flight. You wouldn't want to walk in on me with a friend, would you? Chris felt a thrill as he said goodnight. He looked at the photos again, excited by the images. As soon as Stephanie hung up, she turned to Randall, Jeff's young assistant, who was nearby. They shared a friendly moment, laughing and talking closely. Randall smiled, enjoying their time together. Stephanie felt happy, caught up in the fun of the shoot. They worked late, taking more photos with Jeff's directions. The next day, Chris was eager to get home. On the way from the airport, he imagined surprising Stephanie with a friend. When he arrived, he found her in the kitchen, sorting mail. She wore a skirt and white blouse, her jacket on a chair. They hugged tightly and shared a warm kiss. "Did I get home too early?" Chris asked, smiling. Stephanie played along. "Not at all. I had a work meeting today, so no time for friends." He stood behind her, resting his hands on her shoulders. She leaned back, happy, just like in her photos. "Someone's excited to be home," she said softly. "Tell me what you're thinking," she whispered. "Are you imagining catching me with a friend?" Chris nodded. "I thought about finding you laughing with someone." She pressed his hand gently. "That'd be easy to arrange. If you caught me, would you be mad? Would you ask him to leave? Or would you watch?" Chris didn't answer. He hugged her closer, and they shared a loving moment. They paused for a light dinner. Later, in bed, Stephanie shared more about the shoot. She described posing with a friend while her husband was away, making Chris smile with excitement. They relaxed together, happy in the moment. "This is so fun," Stephanie said. "I didn't know posing for photos would lead to this." Chris agreed. "I didn't expect it either, but I love it." He asked, "Was Riva at the shoot?" She told him it was just her, the other model, Jeff, and his assistant. He imagined his wife in their bedroom with the three of them. "What about your next shoot?" he asked. She looked surprised. "You want me to do more? I thought this would satisfy you. This is it for a while. I am helping Jeff get ready for his exhibition in less than a month, and there's a lot to do." The following Tuesday, Stephanie brought home the photographs from her shoot. They were just as she described, but he was shocked by how bold they were. Some showed her in ways he hadn't expected. She pointed to one where she posed in a suggestive way, telling him about the shots she'd taken. Seeing it was different from just hearing about it. In one close-up, it was clear she was enjoying herself. He thought about Jeff's assistant watching her. Curious, he asked her about him. Stephanie teased him. "So you're thinking about me and the assistant?" "He has helped with most of my shoots, so he's seen a lot. Plus, he's seen other models do similar things." She laughed. "What if I invited another person to join us? That could be an interesting idea." Stephanie had her favorite ways to pose, but Chris liked to imagine other scenarios, too. For the next couple of weeks, they kept looking at Stephanie's photographs, which stirred up their excitement. Chris leaned back against the headboard with the pictures spread out across the bed, like a treasure map of their shared interests. The images still had a raw quality, showing Stephanie in poses that suggested both performance and intimacy. One photo caught her body arched, with Randall's hand just above her thigh, creating a sense of closeness that stirred him even now. She sat cross-legged beside him, tracing circles on his arm. With a glimmer in her eyes, she picked up a photo where she seemed to be lost in the moment. "Look at this one," she said, her tone playful. "You can almost feel the energy, can't you? Imagine if the assistant had joined in watching and guiding." Chris felt a familiar excitement. He nodded, forcing a smile. "Yeah, it's captivating. The way Jeff captured it. Makes you wonder what else could happen." She leaned closer, her breath warm against him. "What if we took it a step further for the exhibition? Some anonymous shots of me, nothing that shows my face but enough to tease. You know, like those black and white pictures Jeff loves, all shadows and shapes." The exhibition. Jeff had mentioned it weeks ago, showing his work at a local gallery for collectors and curious visitors. Stephanie had eagerly helped prepare, picking pieces and suggesting ideas. At first, Chris thought it would add to their games, but now, as she spoke, he noticed her excitement and the playful flush on her cheeks. "That sounds a bit risky," he said lightly, trying to gauge her excitement. "What if someone recognizes you? Our friends might be there." She laughed, a warm, inviting sound. "That's the fun part. Anonymity, remember? Besides, it's art. No one will judge." Setting the photo aside, she leaned closer, encouraging him to join in the spirit of their playful conversation. Imagine we're at the exhibition, with everyone watching the married woman's photos, Stephanie said, smiling. They shared a close hug, pretending to be in front of a crowd. Their playful talk sparked excitement, her whispers about people admiring her pictures. Chris held her tightly, feeling close. But as they hugged, he noticed a quick, distant look in her eyes, not meant for him. It faded fast, but it stayed in his mind like a shadow. Afterward, Stephanie rested against him, her head on his chest. "Jeff wants me for a promo shoot tomorrow," she said. "It's to get people excited for the exhibition. Just me and him, quick and professional." Chris kissed her forehead, hiding a small worry. "Sounds good. I can't wait to see the photos." Stephanie arrived at the studio in the afternoon. The familiar buzz of lights welcomed her like an old friend. Jeff was there, setting up a backdrop, his usual smile warm and easy. "Ready to make something special?" he asked, looking at her kindly. She nodded, taking off her coat to show a simple dress. "What's the plan? Promo stuff, right?" Jeff pointed to a cozy set with soft lights for black and white photos. "Yes, but let's make it stand out. Randall's here. We'll do a teaser series, you two in artistic poses. Nothing too bold for the public, but I can take some extra shots for you." Stephanie's heart beat faster at Randall's name. The tall model from her home shoot was strong and confident, a favorite in her daydreams. "Extras? Like what?" she asked. Jeff stepped closer, his hand lightly touching her arm. "Special ones just for you. Our little secret." Randall arrived soon after, his presence filling the room. They started simply, Stephanie leaning near him, shadows dancing around them. Jeff gave directions to keep the poses mysterious. As the shoot went on, the mood grew warmer. "Closer," Jeff said. "Stephanie, rest your hand on his shoulder." She did, her fingers brushing Randall's arm, feeling his warmth. Randall's hand touched her side, pulling her gently closer. The poses got braver, her standing near him, his arms around her. Jeff kept snapping photos, his voice calm and encouraging. "Perfect! Now, for the extras, try a new pose." Stephanie paused, a tiny worry in her mind, but the excitement won. She changed her stance, standing in a simple outfit. Randall's hands rested lightly on her shoulders, their closeness feeling real. Jeff used a different camera for private shots, capturing their friendly poses. "You're amazing," Jeff said, putting the camera down. He stepped closer, smiling warmly. "One more for your collection?" Stephanie's breath caught as Jeff stood near, his hand on her arm. They shared a friendly moment, a spark of connection growing. Their closeness felt special, different from her moments with Chris. Jeff printed the extra photos and handed her an envelope. "Just for you." She slipped it into her bag, the secret both thrilling and heavy. On the drive home, she thought about the touches and soft words exchanged, feeling a bit of guilt creeping in. But the thrill was stronger she'd keep this to herself like the others. Chris looked for a snack in the quiet kitchen, missing Stephanie's presence. Her bag was on the counter, unzipped from her rush that morning. He peeked inside and noticed the edge of an envelope sticking out. Curiosity pulled at him. Maybe it was early photos from the promo? He pulled it out and opened it, his heart racing. But what he found wasn't the tame pictures he expected. It was in black and white, artistic in the shadows, yet very explicit. Stephanie in a revealing pose, clearly engaged with someone, her eyes directly on the camera. This was different from what they usually did together, and he felt a wave of heat, mixed with confusion. This wasn't from their usual work. The setting was the studio, and the shot felt like it was meant for someone else. His mind spun. Did Jeff accidentally put this in? Or was it planned? He quickly put it back, trying to remain calm even though he was unsettled inside. When Stephanie came back an hour later looking happy, he welcomed her with a kiss. "How did the promo go?" he asked. "Great," she replied, dropping her bag. "Jeff got some amazing shots. Nothing too wild, just teasers for the exhibition." He nodded, watching her closely. "Any extras? Just for us?" She paused and then laughed, shaking her head. "Nope, kept it professional this time. Are you jealous?" "Not jealous," he said, pulling her close. "Just curious. Show me what you got." They ended up in bed with her sharing vague details while he enjoyed her company. The moment was intense, but Chris's mind wandered back to the photo. As she reached a high point of pleasure, he couldn't help but wonder if her sounds were similar to those in the studio. Later, lying in the dark, he gazed at the ceiling, doubt creeping in. This wasn't just a fantasy. He needed to find out more discreetly without revealing his thoughts. The next morning, Chris sat at his desk, the photo nagging at him. He had returned it to Stephanie's bag before she noticed, but the image stuck in his mind, her pose and the look in her eyes. It wasn't jealousy yet, but a strong urge to know more. Photography had always been a fun hobby for him, usually focused on landscapes, but now it felt like a way to uncover the truth. He remembered Jeff mentioning a dark room, a place for developing prints. A casual visit might help him gather information under the guise of seeking advice. He texted Jeff mid-morning. "Hey, can I get some darkroom tips for my hobby shots? Free this afternoon?" Jeff replied quickly. "Sure, come by around 2. You'll have some time between setups." The studio felt different in the daylight, busy with everyday activity. Jeff greeted him at the door as usual. "Chris, good to see you. Come on back, the darkroom is this way." They walked past the main set, now stripped down and simple, with no signs of the promo shoot. The darkroom was small, lined with supplies and equipment. Prints hung around abstract images and shadows. Jeff showed him the basics, mixing chemicals and timing exposures. Chris listened while keeping an eye out for anything unusual. As Jeff adjusted some equipment, Chris noticed a stack of envelopes on a small table, one labeled lightly in pencil. "S. Privates." His heart raced. While Jeff explained some techniques, Chris moved closer, carefully opening the top envelope just enough to peek inside. Inside, there were more black and white photos. Stephanie with an older man from a conference, but these were different from the ones she had shown Chris. She looked very happy, and he seemed to be very close to her. Chris felt uneasy as he looked at the photos. He quickly closed the envelope just as Jeff turned around. "Are you okay? You look surprised," Jeff said. "Just taking it all in," Chris replied, trying to sound calm. "Your work is amazing. Stephanie's photos really stand out." Jeff laughed and leaned against the counter. "She's a natural. So free, you know? She takes risks like no one else. It makes the art exciting." Chris noticed the hidden meaning in Jeff's words. Free. What did that really mean? He nodded slowly. "Yeah, she's full of surprises." After they finished talking, Jeff patted Chris on the back. "Practice at home, get set up. Stephanie could model for you sometime." On the drive home, Chris kept picturing the images he had seen. At a stoplight, he took out his phone and searched for photo sale forums. He found some art websites, but also a forum for more private photographers. His heart raced as he bookmarked it. The threads mentioned secret markets for photos, with buyers looking for models. One post talked about a local guy who might be selling extra photos on the side. By evening, Chris had bought a small hidden camera online, disguised as a clock, using a separate account to keep it private. It arrived the next day. He set it up in their bedroom while Stephanie was out, pointing it towards the bed. Stephanie came home later, and Chris could feel the tension in the air. Jeff was there, and he smiled in a way that felt different from work. He pulled Stephanie in for a kiss that seemed to last. "I miss this," he whispered to her. She pulled away just a bit. "We shouldn't be doing this here." But his closeness was hard to resist, and she leaned into him on the couch, feeling the spark again. "The exhibition is going to be big," Jeff said with excitement. "We could do something special without anyone knowing. Just think about the excitement." Stephanie bit her lip, feeling a mix of thrill and fear. "But it's risky. Chris is starting to notice." Jeff looked at her closely. "Do you think he suspects anything?" "No," she said, trying to hide her guilt. "He's just been distant. This us, it's what keeps me going." They spent more time together than they had planned, their feelings growing stronger. By the time she left, she felt both flustered and clear-headed. At home, Chris' presence felt heavier, a reminder of the distance between them. That night, she returned home later than usual, her face still warm from the evening. Chris noticed it as they sat down for dinner. Her answers were quick, and her eyes kept glancing at her phone. Long day? He asked casually. Yeah, just helping Jeff with some exhibition details. Boring stuff, lighting and layouts. He looked at her closely. Did anything exciting happen? She shrugged, forcing a smile. Not really. How was your day? Productive. I visited Jeff's darkroom and learned some new tips. Her fork stopped in midair, her expression tense. Oh? What for? Just hobby stuff. I'm thinking about setting up my own space. She nodded, but her eyes lingered on him a moment too long. After dinner, she went to bed early, saying she was tired. Chris waited until her breathing was steady, then checked the camera feed on his phone. The app was simple, set up to detect movement and silent. He poured himself a drink and looked through the footage. There she was, alone on the bed, holding an envelope. Her fingers traced the images, her breath quickening as she slipped a hand between her legs. Chris felt a rush of emotions while watching her. But then she said softly, Jeff? Yes, like that. His name echoed in the air. Chris tightened his grip on the glass, his feelings turning cold. He put the glass down, feeling a mix of emotions as he watched the scene unfold. Confusion filled him. This wasn't just a fantasy, but real life. He wanted to know more. That night, he read about ways to mirror messages from her phone. He downloaded an app that linked to her phone through their shared Wi-Fi. By morning, he saw some messages. At first, they seemed innocent, saying things like, "Can't wait for the reveal," with playful emojis. Another said, "Last night was intense. Need more soon." Chris stared at his screen, trying to piece it together. At breakfast, he asked casually, "You seem a bit distracted lately. Is everything okay with your exhibition prep?" She sipped her coffee and smiled, meeting his gaze. "Just busy. Are you missing our games?" "Sure," he replied evenly. "Maybe we could look at some photos tonight, bring back some fun." She hesitated, then smiled back. "Sure, sounds like a good time. But don't get too jealous, it's all art." Her words lingered, a smooth way to change the subject. But Chris noticed the hidden meaning. Jealous? Not really. Just interested in what you're into these days. She laughed it off and kissed him goodbye. As she left, Chris felt something shift inside him. That afternoon, while she was out, he explored the online world further. He searched for stories about betrayal and found forums filled with tales of people discovering infidelity. Many stories were about partners uncovering secrets and getting back at those who hurt them. One story struck a chord. It was about a wife whose modeling career led to hidden secrets, while her husband used cameras to uncover the truth. The idea inspired him. He decided not to confront her yet, but to gather more evidence first. That evening, he hid a small camera in her bag, a trick he learned from the forums. The camera was discreet, battery-powered, and connected to his app. As night came, they looked at the photos in bed. She responded to his touch, but her mind seemed elsewhere. Chris played along, whispering sweet things, internally reminding himself to keep gathering information before making any decisions. Later, Chris watched the hidden camera feed on his laptop. He had received an alert from her bag. There was movement at the studio. As the screen lit up, he watched intently. Stephanie entered first, followed by Jeff, who locked the door behind them. They kissed passionately, her hands tugging at his shirt as he pressed her against the sofa. "I've been thinking about this all day," Stephanie whispered, her voice low. Jeff smiled back, saying, "Me too." "We need to be careful Chris is asking questions," Stephanie said, her face clouding briefly. She nodded, adjusting her jacket. "He suspects something, but not this, not us." The camera caught their warm embrace, closer than before. It wasn't just posing, it was a real moment of connection. Chris watched the video feed, his heart sinking. Shock hit him hard, his hands shaking. He kept watching, every moment burning into his mind her smile, the way she held Jeff tightly, saying his name softly. Then came a twist. As they paused, Stephanie whispered, "Jeff, this excitement, it's stronger than with Chris. I love him, but this, I can't stop." Jeff laughed. "That's what makes it fun." Chris closed his laptop, his chest tight. He felt betrayed, her words cutting deep. Why choose this thrill over him? Anger mixed with memories of their happy times. He grabbed a glass, poured a drink, and drank it fast. The burn calmed him. He needed proof, solid and clear. Using skills from Jeff's studio, he saved the video, marking times and sounds. He took screenshots and wrote down their words. It took hours, his mind torn between disbelief and anger. By morning, he had a folder, videos, pictures, and texts from a hack. It was strong, but he needed more details. He turned to online forums he'd been reading, stories of others uncovering secrets. That morning, he posted anonymously, "Think my wife's photographer is selling her photos. Anyone know about this?" It was vague but direct. By afternoon, a message came. "I know Jeff's studio. I worked there. He's misusing models, including me. If this is about Stephanie, let's talk. Riva." Riva's name rang a bell shed helped Stephanie early on. Chris' heart raced. He replied, "How'd you know it's me?" She answered, "Saw your post details. Meet me at the Elm Coffee Shop, 3 p.m. Private." He got there early, picking a quiet corner. Riva slid in, her dark hair tied back, face serious. "You're Chris, right? I knew it was you." He nodded, keeping his voice low. "Why reach out?" She leaned closer, eyes sharp. "Jeff hurt me. I started as an assistant helping with makeup and poses. Then he sold my photos without permission. Secret markets, big money. I quit, but he pressured me to stay quiet. Your post. If it's Stephanie, she's in trouble." Chris' jaw tightened. "Got proof?" Riva slid a USB drive over. Copies from his files. "Stephanie's photos are there, sold as married blonde. High prices, secret buyers. He's earned thousands." He took the drive, anger growing. "Why help now?" "Revenge," she said simply. "He broke my trust in photography. If we expose him, leaks, reports, we can stop him." "You in?" Chris met her eyes, their plan forming. "Yes, but fair hit him where it counts." They outlined a plan, more watching, collecting stories, aiming for a big reveal. Riva left first, a nod sealing their deal. That evening, home felt tense. Stephanie arrived, her smile too bright. "Missed you today," she said, touching his arm. Chris hugged her, his grip firm, hiding his anger. "Show me," he said, voice sharp. She raised an eyebrow, teasing. "Feeling eager?" He led her upstairs, their playful talk intense, whispering about crowds seeing her photos. He tightened his grip on her hips, moving with a passion that felt almost angry. "What if they really knew you?" he whispered, the weight of his words hanging between them. She gasped, surprised. "What do you mean?" "Just daydreaming," he said, hiding his true thoughts. They finished, her leaning against him, but the air was thick with unspoken feelings. Later, as they shared a glass of wine in the kitchen, the mood shifted. "You're out late a lot," he mentioned casually. "Work events?" She took a sip and avoided his gaze. "Yeah, am busy with Jeff. Deadlines." "Work," he repeated, his tone flat. "Seems like more than that." Her glass paused. "What do you mean? You supported this." "Is this a fight now?" He set his glass down, his voice rising slightly. "I'm just curious. You come home like something's off." "What do you mean by that?" She shot back, the tension bubbling up. "Jealous again? It's just preparation, Chris. Nothing more." He looked at her, resentment brewing. "If you say so." The words lingered between them, her guilt showing before she turned away. "I'm tired. Let's not argue." They went to bed, both feeling tense, but she initiated intimacy, conflicted, urgent. Chris took part, his movements mechanical, his mind elsewhere. He hid his anger, remembering her laughter from happier days. But the truth echoed in his mind. She found excitement outside their relationship. It fueled his desire for revenge. He thought about exposing her, leaking details, and watch as her world fall apart, but he needed more proof first. Going through her nightstand, he found a small journal tucked away. The pages were filled with her thoughts, scattered entries. "Today with Jay intense, but I feel guilty. Chris deserves better, but I can't stop." Another entry read, "Lied to see again. I hate myself, but keeping secrets is thrilling. I swear it's the last time." Her raw feelings were laid bare. Her excitement battled with her love for him. This made her more human to him, but also strengthened his determination. Mistakes like these, stemming from her struggle, would be her downfall. He took photos of the pages, adding to his collection of evidence. He'd play along and gather more than act. The next morning, Stephanie left early, saying she had a final session before the big night. Chris watched from the window as she drove off, already checking the camera feed. His partnership with Riva had made him sharper. Her USB drive confirmed the sales from anonymous buyers who wanted her art. Now, every move she made added to his growing collection. The camera came to life as she entered the studio. "Just a few last touches, let's make it special," Jeff's warm voice said. Clothes rustled, and whispers filled the air, quickly becoming more heated. "We shouldn't," she said softly, but her tone revealed the truth. The camera captured intimate moments, her back against him, their movements fluid and unguarded. Chris felt a surge of jealousy as the reality of her actions hit him hard. He saved the clip, marking the time, his hands steady despite the hurt. Later that afternoon, the exhibition preview buzzed at the gallery, filled with Jeff's striking black and white pieces. Chris arrived unannounced, blending into the small crowd, collectors, critics, and a few locals. The walls displayed abstract images, curves and shadows of figures entwined. Then he noticed them photos of Stephanie, disguised but recognizable to him. One showed her in profile, the way she stood revealing an artistic blend of closeness. A mix of unwanted feelings twisted inside him as he imagined the buyers who had already paid for more. He stayed close to a group of guests, listening to their quiet talk. "These are bold. Did you hear the model's married? How exciting," one person said. Another laughed. "It's risky if it gets out." Think of the drama. Chris felt the tension rise. The potential trouble was clear. He took some discreet photos of the exhibit, feeling a mix of satisfaction and pain. The opening night was here, the gallery lit with soft lights and gentle music, crowds filling the space. Chris hid in the shadows, looking around. Stephanie moved through the hall, blending in with a mask and a pretty dress. She talked and laughed like everyone else, but Chris recognized her style and presence. People admired the art, whispering, "Is that her? The blonde from the series, what a bold choice." Stephanie glowed with excitement, her cheeks flushed as she posed subtly near her artwork, both hidden and on display. Then, Chris's phone buzzed with notifications from online forums. Jeff had accidentally posted a private photo of Stephanie, revealing part of her face, along with information about the exhibit. Comments flooded in. "Is that the married model? Looks interesting but messy." Friends from their group began debating online. Could that be Stephanie? Nah, no way. Anxiety spread through the crowd as whispers reached Stephanie. She froze, checking her phone's notifications. Quickly, she slipped toward the back office with Jeff following close behind. Chris quietly trailed them, positioning himself by a slightly open door, blending into the darkness. Inside, he heard Stephanie's voice shaking. "How could you share that? If Chris sees—" Jeff tried to reassure her. "It was a mistake. I'll take it down. Just relax." Their closeness shifted, and moments turned intimate. Chris saw shadows through the door, feeling a surge of anger. Clenching his fists, he quietly stepped back, the scene etched in his mind. The after-party continued in a nearby lounge, for guests only. Chris followed from a distance, taking in the scene. Stephanie arrived looking flustered, and soon found Randall in a quiet corner. "We need to talk," she whispered, pulling him into a side room. Chris caught bits of their private moment. They were close, and she seemed anxious, saying, "I'm ruining everything. Chris doesn't deserve this, but I can't help it. The guilt is overwhelming." Randall tried to comfort her, but the weight of her words lingered, revealing her inner struggle. Chris watched from his car parked nearby, realizing he had a plan forming in his mind. It was time to expose everything and let the drama unfold. That night at home was tense. When Stephanie returned home late, she looked tired and guilty. "It was a tough evening," she said as she flopped onto the couch. Chris pretended to care, sitting next to her. "I heard about a leak from the exhibition, a photo going around. Are you okay?" Her eyes widened in fear. "What? No, there's nothing. Just a mistake." But then, his phone buzzed again. News of the leak was spreading widely. Rumors circulated among their friends. That photo definitely Stephanie. "What's happening?" Stephanie checked her own phone, growing pale. "Oh no, how did this happen?" Chris watched her unravel, pretending to be sympathetic, while inside he felt a mix of betrayal and quiet determination. This minor scandal was just the beginning. His evidence would only make it bigger. The online gossip about the leak was intense. People were chatting in forums and whispering in private groups. Chris watched everything unfold from his office, collecting screenshots and tips that connected Jeff's studio to secret sales. Anger and sadness mixed within him, especially as he remembered Stephanie's bright smiles now overshadowed by this betrayal. He needed to act. Sitting idle wouldn't help. Chris thought of Alex, Jeff's young assistant from earlier days. He had learned about him from Riva, who mentioned that Alex was a college student working on the side. Chris knew he had to approach Alex carefully so as not to scare him off. After checking Alex's social media, Chris found out he often went to a nearby coffee shop on campus. He got there early, bought a black coffee, and waited. When Alex arrived, he had a backpack over one shoulder and didn't notice Chris at first. Chris walked over casually and introduced himself. "Hey, Alex. I'm Chris, Stephanie's husband, from Jeff's studio." Alex looked surprised and then cautious. Yeah. What do you want?" "Mind if we chat? He'll buy you a drink," Chris offered, pointing to a table. They sat down and Alex seemed nervous. Chris kept his voice low. "I know what's happening with the shoots. Jeff's selling them, right?" Alex's face went pale. "I don't know what you mean." "Let's not play games," Chris said firmly, sliding a printout toward him showing a forum post about the sales. "You're involved helping out with things that go too far." Alex glanced around, visibly shaken. "It's just a job. I helped set up lights. I didn't agree to anything wrong." Chris nodded, understanding his situation. "I get it, but think about the models, like my wife, trusting him. If this comes out, you could get caught up in it too." Alex swallowed hard. "What do you want from me?" "I need you to help me expose Jeff. Confirm the sales and give me proof. In return, you can stay out of it and maybe even get some cash." Guilt showed on Alex's face, and the offer seemed tempting. "He sells them online. Anonymous packages, married women get higher prices. Your wife's shoots. They've sold well." Chris felt sick but kept calm. "Can you prove it?" After a moment, Alex took out his phone and sent an email with files. Invoices and logs. It's messed up. Stephanie seemed nice. The documents included evidence of sales, showing timestamps and blurred images that matched Stephanie's sessions. Chris sent Alex a small payment through an app to finalize their agreement. "You're done with this. Stay quiet." Alex nodded, relief clear on his face. "Deal. Jeff's a bad guy." As Alex left, Chris went through the files in his car, feeling more determined. The sales scheme was real, and Jeff was benefiting from these betrayals. Later, Riva met him at a park bench, having completed her research. She handed him a flash drive. "I got statements from 3 former models, similar stories about being pushed into extra work and having their images sold without permission. One is ready to speak publicly if we coordinate." Chris reviewed the files, which contained strong evidence of coercion and online sales. This could be crucial. But then Riva's expression changed. "I found something else. Stephanie is involved, but she doesn't know it. Jeff is using her promotional shoots to attract buyers without her consent, labeling her as a willing participant in those ads. She's the face for his married series, boosting his sales." Chris felt his heart sink. Stephanie was unknowingly connected to all of this, and her excitement was being used for something terrible. "She had no idea?" "Probably not how serious it is," Riva replied, "but it puts her at risk if buyers decide to sue." They gathered everything the statements mixed with Alex's notes, Chris's reports into a secure digital file, protected and backed up. The pressure increased. Stephanie entered the studio the next day, still feeling the effects of the leak. Jeff looked up, surprised to see her. "Steph? What's wrong?" "The photo you said you'd delete it. Now it's everywhere. Friends are asking questions." Her voice trembled, showing the strain from their situation. Jeff stood and drew her close. "Calm down. It was just a mistake. Something went wrong with the server. I've cleaned it up." But she stepped back. "Mistake? This could ruin everything." Chris is acting strange, distant, and curious. Jeff's hands rested on her arms. "He doesn't know anything. Come on, let's forget it. Let's shoot something quickly and lighten the mood. She shook her head, hesitation growing. No, this has to stop. The excitement isn't worth the risk anymore. He leaned in, but she pulled away, feeling the weight of guilt. I'm serious, Jeff. It's over. He sighed, trying to hide his frustration. Fine, but think about one last shoot, some closure for old time's sake. She hesitated, feeling the pull of old habits, but finally nodded. One last time. Then I'm done. Back home, she went to her bedroom and took out her journal. She wrote down her feelings. I talked to Jay today. This leak is a mess. I love Chris and always have, but this thrill is like a drug. I'm addicted, and it's hurting me. One final shoot, then I have to quit. I need to fix this before it breaks us. She closed her journal, her determination flickering with regret as she planned her next steps. Later, Chris watched the confrontation on a hidden camera, her words both comforting and painful. We're done. There was regret in her voice, a hint of weakness. But the last shoot? An opportunity, perhaps. That night, he thought about things, considering forgiveness in the quiet moments. Her journal entries spoke of love, but the thrill was a weakness, not a flaw. Feelings of heartbreak washed over him, remembering her vulnerability and feeling empathy. His phone buzzed with a hacked text from her to Jeff. I regret this mess. I miss what we had with C one last time, then it's over. The twist hit him. Real regret. Her uncertainty matching his. For a moment, he thought about approaching her gently, offering a way back. But the digital file loomed sales, betrayals, the older man, Randall. Pain returned, and his determination grew. No, he murmured. She made her choice. Closure will have consequences. He moved forward, emailing Riva. I need more information. The final shoot is coming up. Let's use it. Allies gathered, and plans deepened. The end was near. Jeff walked around the studio, phone in hand, preparing for the last shoot with a mix of excitement and caution. Randall, yes, just like before. Bring the older guy too. We'll make this a group teaser for the finale. Stephanie agrees to closure. He hung up, smirking at the expected sales boost, anonymous shots of a married blonde in her last performance. Stephanie arrived later, her determination wavering but still intact. This is it, Jeff. One last time, then we are finished. He nodded and quickly embraced her. Understood. Let's make it memorable. He added casually, Alex is assisting today, helping with the lights and all. You don't mind, right? She shrugged, the presence of the young assistant barely registering in her guilt-ridden thoughts. Fine. Just get it done. Chris, monitoring from home through hacked messages, saw everything unfold. Final shoot group, one message read. His simmering anger turned into calm strategy. He texted Alex, record everything. Send a secret feed to me. This will trap them. Alex replied, got it. Hidden camera is ready. The studio buzzed with tension as the group gathered. Randall and the older man, Mark, who had been part of the conference scenes, arrived, stirring Stephanie's addictive nature even as she tried to stay firm in her decision. Jeff set up the scene, a simple bed, soft lights creating nice shadows. They began acting Stephanie in the center, taking off her clothes slowly, posing in a way that hinted at intimacy. Randall had his hands on her waist, and Mark's lips lightly touched her shoulder. Move closer, Jeff encouraged, the camera clicking away. Make it real for the art. Stephanie felt uneasy, her movements unsure at first. This doesn't feel right, she whispered to Jeff during a break. Yet there was a rush of excitement as bodies connected, the lines between acting and reality fading. Stephanie could feel Randall's body against her, and Mark's hands moved lower, everything starting to feel real, her reactions genuine as guilt and desire battled within her. Jeff filmed non-stop, shifting to a private camera. These will sell fast just for us, he suggested, his eyes shining with ambition. Stephanie struggled with her emotions, feeling guilt wash over her as hands explored. I can't do this, she gasped, but the excitement was overpowering. Her body responded even with tears in her eyes. The moment intensified. She was in the middle, exploring, the lines between acting and reality blurring completely. She promised herself silently that this was the end, yet the thrill surged through her. Alex pretended to adjust the equipment while capturing everything with his hidden camera faces visible, actions clear. The plan went off without a hitch, and the footage was sent to Chris. After it was done, Stephanie dressed quickly. "That's it. No more drama, no more risks. I'm done, Jeff, for good." He laughed softly. "Sure, until next time." She left feeling determined, wanting to rebuild her life with Chris, the weight of guilt heavy on her. Chris watched the assistant's video in real time from his office. The screen lit up with a scene of betrayal Stephanie caught in the act, her expressions a mix of pleasure and regret. He felt his heart break again, witnessing her involvement and the guilt reflected on her face. Anger boiled inside him, his calm demeanor slipping as he clenched his fists. He saved the footage, organizing it into a collection, high-quality clips and recordings of broken promises. "This will end everything between them," he said quietly, getting ready to share it online. He started drafting posts for a forum, hints about the sales scheme, blurry images that teased their identities. It wasn't ready to go live yet, but it was close. Riva's call came through while he was watching, her voice urgent. "I found proof of buyers' dark web logs. Stephanie's videos traced to collectors, and payments linked to Jeff." This new information strengthened his resolve. Transaction details showed partial buyer identities but were still connectable. "Great, that ties everything together." They synchronized their files, completing the puzzle. Chris's plans deepened, readying for the big reveal. When Stephanie returned home, she seemed subdued, sorrow evident on her face. Chris greeted her calmly, gently asking, "Long day? You look tired." She forced a smile and sat next to him. "Just finished up some work. It was tiring." He poured a drink and handed her a glass. "Is there anything on your mind?" Her gaze met his, a hint of a confession lingering. "Chris, I've made some mistakes. The shoots, they spiraled out of control." His heart raced close to the truth. "Mistakes? What do you mean?" She paused, guilt washing over her, then retreated. "Nothing. Just work stress. Let's drop it." Tension filled the air as they moved upstairs. She initiated intimacy, thinking of it as a goodbye of sorts, feeling conflicted. Chris responded, attentive and kind, trying to pull her thoughts into the light. "You seem distant, like something is changing." She cried softly, her tears mixing with whispers. "It is, I promise." Yet the atmosphere was thick with tension. Afterward, she curled against him, silently vowing to share her truth soon. Chris stayed awake, feeling calm once more, knowing he had set everything in motion. He stared at his screen, his cursor hovering over the anonymous forum post. The report was ready clips from the final shoot, sales records, and statements, but he decided to start small. He posted a teaser photo, a blurred image from one of Stephanie's private sessions, her face hidden but her body recognizable to those who knew her, with the caption, "Married model in underground sales, local studio scam." He clicked submit, his heart racing with a mix of triumph and unease. The post appeared on the photography forum, a little leak to gauge reactions and stir some attention. Within hours, it began to spread. Users on the forum commented, "Looks familiar, Jeff's work." Links were shared, creating waves across social media. By evening, their group chat was buzzing. Someone had shared a screenshot. "Wait, is this Steph? No way." Concern mounted in the messages. "Guys, check this out, strange similarity." As Stephanie sat across from him at dinner, her phone vibrated non-stop. She paused, fork in midair, as she glanced at the notifications, her face losing color. "Oh no," she mumbled, scrolling through a flurry of messages. "How did this happen?" Chris pretended to be surprised, leaning over to ask, "What is it?" "A photo from the shoots. It's blurry, but people think it's me." Her voice trembled with worry. She paced the kitchen, calling Jeff. "You said it was safe. Now it's on forums, and our friends are seeing it." Jeff's voice came through softly. "Stay calm could be a hack. I will take care of it." But as she hung up, she looked at Chris, suspicion flickering in her eyes. "You haven't noticed anything strange online, have you?" He shook his head, keeping his voice steady. "No, but if it's leaking, maybe we should stop the shoots completely." She nodded absent-mindedly, uncertainty clouding her gaze. as her friends started texting her directly. "Steph, is this you? It looks just like you." Panic grew. She felt guilt churning inside, worried about Chris finding out. Later, Chris retreated to his office to look at the journal he had photographed earlier. It contained pages of her thoughts, early entries filled with excitement for the secrecy like, "The thrill with Jay is electric, Chris doesn't know, but it adds excitement." But as he continued reading, regret surfaced. "I lied again today. I hate hurting C, he's everything, but I need to stop before it ruins us." The weight of betrayal hit hard. She had admitted to affairs, saying, "With Randall and Mark, too, I can't take this guilt anymore." Sadness washed over him, realizing she wasn't a bad person, just someone who made mistakes, chasing excitement at his expense. Yet the discoveries fueled his anger and he took more photos, adding to the report. Meanwhile, Stephanie, isolated in her room, quickly texted Jeff, "The leak is everywhere, friends are suspicious. If Chris finds out about us, it's over. I should have ended this earlier, it's my fault." Words spilled out in her anxiety, her guilt breaking down her guard. Chris received the message immediately. The impact hit him hard. Her admission in writing tied her directly to the affairs. "Perfect," he murmured to himself, saving the screenshot. A mix of victory and sorrow filled him. Her regrets were genuine, but it was too late. The next day, Riva met him at a quiet cafe, handing him a flash drive. "Final proofs more X models are stepping forward. They have statements about Jeff's pressure tactics." Alex joined the conversation through video call, looking tense. "I saw the leak and I know it's connected to you. If this gets out, I'm in trouble too. Here's everything: access logs and buyer emails." The connection was clear. Alex, fearing his own exposure, sent over unedited files showing Stephanie's images linked to sales, labeled "willing married participant." Chris's associates confirmed everything, and their plan came together. They discussed the exhibition sequel, Jeff's next event scheduled for the following week, a larger showcase with live features. "We will make our move there," Chris decided. "Let's share the evidence during the event. An anonymous tip to the media could create a domino effect." Riva nodded. "We should reveal the plan. Let the results take care of themselves." Alex chimed in, "I'm done after this. It'll erase my tracks." The plan was set, and Chris felt a sense of power grow within him, strengthening his determination. That evening reached a turning point. Stephanie walked around the living room with a glass of wine, her guilt showing through her calm exterior. "Chris, we need to talk," she said. He sat down and replied softly, "About the leak or something else?" She paused, feeling defensive. "The leak? It's nothing, just a coincidence." But his stare was unwavering. "Come on, Steph. You've been acting distant. The photos, are they really just for art?" Her eyes filled with tears as guilt rose within her. I got caught up in things, but it's over now, I promise." It was a small confrontation, yet tension rose. "Caught up how? With Jeff? Randall?" She turned pale, slipping up. "How do you mean no? It's not what you think." Her admission, fueled by guilt, slipped out. "You know?" He leaned in, ready for an argument. "I suspect something. The texts, the late nights. Just tell me the truth." She grew defensive. "You're being unreasonable. The photos were your idea, now you're twisting it." Anger brewed beneath his calm expression. "My idea? Not the affairs or the dishonesty." Stephanie stood, raising her voice. "Affairs? It's not like that. Oh, Chris, I messed up. But I love you. The excitement got to me, but I'm stopping." Their argument grew, with tension crackling as guilt began to unravel her denials. "Excitement? Over us?" Tears began to fall. "Yes, no, I regret everything. Please, let's fix this." But he stepped back, hurt and anger clashing. "It's too late for that." She rushed upstairs, leaving the room thick with unspoken tension. Chris sat alone, resolved things were set in motion. Later that night, Riva's message popped up on Chris's secure app. "Need to meet. Urgent." There was an edge to her words, a sign of worry. Chris felt a flicker of unease. Relationships were fragile, built on past grievances, and those grievances could change. He replied, "Let's meet at the park bench at dawn." When he arrived, she was there, pacing under the dim light. "Jeff contacted me," she said quickly, glancing around. He offered money to step back, promised a big cut from his sales. He said he'd include me if I disrupted our plan. Chris' jaw tightened, anger bubbling up. And what did you say? She hesitated, temptation clear on her face. It's tempting. He hurt me before, but money is powerful. Revealing the truth could put me at risk. 2 old photos could resurface. The uncertainty lingered, loyalty wavering. Chris stepped closer, his voice firm. You came to me, Riva. Remember why? He took advantage of you, just like he did with Stephanie. If you back out now, you're complicit. We should stand together against him, or he'll go alone and you'll be pulled in. Her gaze met his, conflict swirling inside. You're right. Forget his offer, him with you. Let's make this stronger. They leaned in, refining their plan. Hidden projectors for the finale, timed leaks to the media. The confrontation strengthened her resolve, forming a stronger alliance. No more doubts, she promised. He will fall. Meanwhile, Jeff was brimming with excitement in the gallery's back room, sketching ideas for the encore exhibition, a follow-up to take advantage of the buzz from the leak. He wanted a bigger venue and live previews to catch attention. Stephanie's series will be the main feature, anonymous, but Scandal sells tickets, he told his contacts over the phone. Stephanie arrived later, drawn by his call, her mind racing with regret. What's going on? She asked, her voice sharp. It's about the encore show. Your work will be the focus. Exciting, right? He tried to pull her closer, but she pulled away. No, I want out, but it'll come. She needed to talk to Chris, tell him everything. Clean slate. A sense of determination filled her. With the chaos around them, she felt it was the right time. Jeff shrugged. It's your choice. But stay for the excitement just one last time. She nodded, her nerves peaking as she thought of the moment. She would pull Chris aside and share everything. Home felt tense that afternoon. Stephanie was in the kitchen, stirring her coffee absent-mindedly, regret creeping in. Chris, about last night, I really meant what I said. I regret so much. He looked up from his laptop, pretending not to understand. Regret what exactly? She hesitated, her words getting stuck. The distance, the secrets. We can fix our issues, right? He maintained a calm focus, gently probing. Secrets? Like crossing lines? Tears threatened to come, but she held them back. Yes, but it's over now, trust me. Later, as she showered upstairs, Chris searched her drawer, a bad habit now. He found a crumpled note in her handwriting. Confess at Encore. Tell Chris everything affairs, sales. End this nightmare. If I back out, I'll do something drastic. That moment hit her hard, her own plan to face her fears. Anger surged inside him. You think a confession will solve this? He murmured, taking a photo of the note. He then started a partial leak, posting something online. A blurred image of Stephanie tied to the Married Blonde series. He pressed submit and watched it spread. Rumors spread quickly, texts from friends poured in. Steph, is this, you be honest? Others kept their distance. Heard about the pictures. What's happening? Her phone lit up downstairs and panic caused her to gasp. Fear gripped her. She raced to Jeff's studio and slammed the door. The leaks, they're getting worse. Logs now, my images. This is your fault. Jeff turned, defensive. Me? You're the one taking risks. Your thrill-seeking brought us here. If it all crashes, it's on you. Blame shifted, their connection fraying. We end this. No more contact. She pulled back, hurt by his words. Are you serious? After everything we've been through? He shrugged. Business. Clean up your mess. Fuming, she left, feeling a deepening rift as her world felt unstable. Chris watched from afar, feeling a cold satisfaction. Tensions rose as a big reveal approached. The encore event buzzed with excitement in a large gallery downtown, filled with people drawn in by the whispers of scandal. Dim lights created dramatic shadows over Jeff's artwork, bold abstracts and interactive displays with models resembling living art. Stephanie stood with Jeff, dressed in a sleek black outfit and wearing a half-mask for anonymity. The leaks had made her feel exposed. She faked confidence, searching for Chris, her planned confession weighing heavily on her. Jeff, as always, charmed the crowd, telling collectors, "This series shows real vulnerability, timeless work." As the main presentation started, the air thickened with tension. Guests murmured, phones out, the excitement heightened by the earlier leaks. Jeff took the stage. "Welcome to the encore where lines blur and truths are revealed." Stephanie joined him, her smile fragile, heart racing as she resolved to talk to Chris afterward. In the middle of Jeff's speech, something unexpected happened. Alex at the tech booth hit the override, causing a stir. Screens flickered as Jeff's carefully planned presentation was interrupted by unexpected evidence sales reports scrolling and buyer comments appearing. "Hot married blonde worth every penny." Then came pictures. Stephanie, clearly visible in a compromising situation. Next, videos played on loop her with Jeff, Randall, and Mark, sounds of distress echoing through the speakers. Panic spread quickly. Guests gasped, whispers turned into loud comments. "Is that her? Oh my God, it's real!" Phones were raised, recording the unfolding scene. Stephanie stood frozen on stage, her expression pale with shock. Jeff grabbed the microphone. "Technical problem cut the feed." But the images continued to display. Chaos filling the room, some guests ran away in disgust, while others stood frozen in shock. Chris burst through the side door with friends beside him, Riva, a former model, and Alex from the booth. The energy changed as Chris approached confidently, the spotlight on him. "No mistake here, Jeff," Chris shouted above the noise. "This is the truth, your plans are out in the open." He climbed onto the stage, facing the audience with a mix of anger and sadness. "Everyone, this isn't art, it's taking advantage of people. Jeff has been selling private pictures without permission, making money off trust. And my wife," he paused, looking at Stephanie, clearly upset, "was involved in it too." Riva stepped forward with the microphone. "He did the same to me, sold my pictures. We're here to speak out." Other former models nodded, sharing the same story. "Same here, no rights or pay," Jeff shouted back angrily, face turning red. "That's false. This is a plot against me. Get them out." But things took a surprising turn. Overwhelmed with guilt, Stephanie took the microphone, her voice shaking. "It's true," she admitted, tears falling. "I got swept up in it, all the excitement, the affairs, with Jeff and others. I betrayed my husband and our life. I'm so sorry, please, Chris. Forgive me." Her deep regret was clear as the crowd watched in judgment. Media excitement grew, alerts pinged as news spread online. "Gallery scandal, married model caught." Hashtags like art betrayal became popular, videos spreading rapidly. The emotional impact hit hard. Stephanie turned to Chris, desperation evident. "Please, we can fix this. I love you, it was a mistake." He shook his head, voice calm but sad. "Mistakes? You chose this instead of us." In a final act, he signaled to Alex the journal was shown next, pages flipping to reveal her encounters and regrets. Her words publicly revealed her troubles. "The excitement with Jeff is worth the lies." She collapsed to her knees, sobbing, feeling completely alone as friends turned away, whispers echoing, "How could she do that?" Meanwhile, Jeff fled backstage, but the media quickly surrounded him, former models narrating their stories. With that, the event ended abruptly, security controlling the situation while whispers of lawsuits filled the air. Class action underway, claims of wrongdoing. Online discussions heated up, with Stephanie's name trending alongside calls to boycott Jeff's studio. Chris walked away through the chaos, allies with him, feeling a mix of heartbreak and freedom. The disorder lingered in his mind like smoke from a fading fire. In the following weeks, lawsuits multiplied. Former models, led by Riva, filed a case against Jeff for using their images without permission. Chris provided useful information through discreet channels, with detailed sales records and other documents detailing Jeff's actions. The court moved quickly. The evidence was strong, and public opinion, driven by viral videos, called for justice. At the same time, Chris went through a divorce. His lawyer, a smart advocate found through online connections, made sure he got the house, savings, and most shared belongings. Stephanie, her reputation damaged, lost her job because of the scandal. Her employer cited moral policies in a brief email, and her friends disappeared under pressure. Invitations stopped coming, and she lost followers on social media. She became a warning story among friends, the married model, whose risky choices led to her downfall. Weeks later, she left Chris a voicemail, her voice shaky and desperate. "Chris, please meet me. I need to explain and say I'm sorry. We can fix this." He listened once, feeling some satisfaction mixed with sadness, then deleted it without replying. More attempts came, texts, and a letter slipped under the door, but he ignored everything, his newfound calm acting as protection. Justice felt fair, her loneliness reflecting the hurt she had caused him. Jeff's situation worsened as he struggled under the pressure. His studio closed suddenly, and bankruptcy filings became public knowledge, shameful as creditors were on him. Former models received settlements small but meaningful, leaving his finances in ruins. Anonymous tips, likely from Chris, circulated in industry forums and licensing offices, leading to a ban on Jeff's professional activities. Photography groups took away memberships and licenses due to ethical violations. The media jumped on the story, headlines shouting about an art scandal, photographer's downfall. Interviews with former clients painted him as a manipulator, showing his average image cracking to reveal a more selfish side. Embarrassed, he sold his equipment piecemeal, disappearing from public view as everything crumbled around him. Chris' recovery came slowly, like daybreak after a long night. He returned to photography, focusing on nature instead of his past work, capturing peaceful landscapes that helped him feel grounded. A local club welcomed him back, and his exhibitions received quiet praise. He started dating again, this time with Sarah, a woman from the club who shared his love for hiking and brought joy into his life. There was no rush and no shadows, just a friendship that helped heal his wounds. One evening, as he reflected on his journey at a quiet spot with his camera, he decided to destroy remnants of the past. Printed photos and files were burned in a backyard fire pit. The flames took away his old life, the smoke rising as he let go of the past. A sense of empowerment filled him, a quiet joy in moving beyond the pain. Years later, he unexpectedly saw Stephanie at a coffee shop. She looked older, her presence dimmed, sitting alone. Their eyes met for a moment. She recognized him, but he turned away without saying anything, feeling no compassion for her. She had become a shadow of the person she once was, a result of her choices. In the following months, closure came definitively. Stephanie moved away, her reputation tarnished, whispers following her to a new town where job prospects were low and her social connections broken. Jeff faded into the background, a warning tale in the industry struggling to survive in anonymity. Chris, on the other hand, flourished. His career progressed, Sarah was by his side, and their new home was bright with hope. The lessons from all this lingered in quiet moments, understanding the fragility of trust, the risks of desire, and the strength found in resilience. As he framed a new print for his wall, the past dimmed in memory, leaving behind a lasting sense of empowerment.